Alright, hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Casey, and today I'm actually bringing you guys a slightly different video than usual. Usually I just do tarot pick-a-card readings, but as a tarot reader, I deal with lots of energy, psychic energy, good energy, bad energy, but overall, I need to have a way to cleanse and protect my space because I do a lot of these readings in my bedroom, and that is the place where I like to go to relax, where I like to be able to focus on work, and I can't do that if I'm constantly like in a space that's filled with all this energy swirling around. And doing a lot of readings, I encounter a lot of energy, and therefore I have to have very powerful ways of keeping my space cleansed, both physically and energetically. And I thought it might be beneficial to you guys to show you what kind of methods I'm doing, because these are very simple things. Like, I'm not out here doing like really impressive protection spells. I'm not incorporating a bunch of things that you have to go out and search for and buy. These are all things that everybody has access to, and it's everything that you see here on the table, minus an egg, just because I didn't want to deal with cleaning an egg and bringing it out here. But as you can see, the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about in detail today are incense. I have a few different kinds here that I'll talk about. Water, which everybody has access to, hopefully. Salt, this sea salt, which is optional. You don't need to include it, but it is very helpful. A candle, which, you know, it doesn't need to be anything special. You could just go out and buy a tea light. And it's not even really the candle itself so much as the flame, just having access to flame of some kind. And then here I'm going to talk about how I contain my crystals, because I do keep a lot of crystals in my space, but if you just leave them out and they're not properly contained, especially if you're not currently using them for anything, that energy can kind of like bounce off the walls and clutter up a space with energy. And so I'll tell you how I keep my crystals contained so that they're not overflowing my space with energy. So I have left timestamps down in the description box below, so you can, skip the intro if you want to quickly jump to exactly the details I'm going to be talking about. I've left that down below, though I do encourage you to listen to everything that I have to say, because it is important to know the details behind why you're doing certain things and how it works, especially if you're setting intentions for certain things. So let's go ahead and get into it. So one of the things that I want to say is everybody's beliefs are different. For some of you, what I talk about here might not work for you. You might not even believe in it. And I'm not trying to force any beliefs on you. I want you to take what resonates with you, leave what doesn't. Different things are going to work for everybody, but these are what has worked for me and what I enjoy the most, because they're really low maintenance. All of these things are things that I could do in like 30 seconds. I could do it during my morning routine or while I'm doing other things. I don't need to carve out a specific time of day to do it. It's just set it up, set it, forget it, leave it, and it's still very powerful, even as simple as it is. And I think that the best kinds of energy protection, energy work is best when it stays simple, when it's not overcomplicated. And so that's the kind of thing that I enjoy. I don't have a lot of time to devote to setting up an entire practice and doing a ritual, so I like to just do things that can be easy to do on the go. If you're looking for more in-depth stuff, I encourage you to kind of look elsewhere, because I'm not going to be talking about that today. So starting off with keeping a space cleansed. This is going to be the most important thing, because cleansing a space and cleansing yourself, a lot of it can be done in very similar ways. And cleansing yourself is obviously very important, but if you're cleansing yourself and not cleansing your space, and you're residing in a space that's full of negative energy or stagnant energy, it's just going to cloud you up again. And it's like, no matter how much you cleanse yourself, you're going to stay dirty, basically, because your space is dirty. And the number one thing that I think is important to keeping a space energetically cleansed is to keep it physically clean. And the reason being is, like, think of energy the same way that you think about dust. Dust collects on surfaces, it especially collects in corners. That's where you get cobwebs or dust bunnies, and energy does the same sort of thing. When energy isn't cleansed, it clings to your walls, it clings to your surfaces, it clings to yourself, And the first step in keeping my space energetically cleansed is to keep it physically clean. Because, like you've probably heard before, everything contains energy. The crystals, for example, the reason I keep them contained is because they contain energy. The reason that I clean dust off of everything is because that contains energy. And when you allow things to be in your space that don't serve a purpose or that contain too much energy, you're allowing your space to be energetically cluttered as well. So the most important thing I will say is you can do, cleanse your room all you want. But if you're keeping your space cluttered, if you have objects lying around everywhere, if everything's chaotic, cleansing the energy can only go so far. So personally, in a space like my room where I need to be able to relax at night, I will keep my bed tidy and clean when I'm not using it. I try to reduce the amount of clutter that I have, and obviously I keep my room very clean physically. So, like that saying, cleanliness is close to godliness. I truly believe that. And, you don't need to go overboard and be super minimalistic. As long as the objects in your room are serving a purpose, even if that's just emotionally, it's still, it's serving a purpose of some kind. But if you have a bunch of papers lying around, if you have, objects sitting everywhere that are just cluttering your space, they're just adding on more energy that you're going to have to cleanse later. So that is the very first step. Before we get into any of these additives, just keeping your space cleansed. It'll help keep your mind cleansed as well. So a part of keeping the space cleansed, the first thing that I want to talk to you about is how I contain my crystals. Because I guarantee that if you're watching this video and you're into energy or spiritual things, you probably have a few crystals lying around. So I'm going to show you how I keep my crystals contained. So, as you can see, I have a silk scarf. White is a very good color because it's all about reflecting, it's not absorbing. So think of it as like a protective layer to place over something. If you don't have silk, I've heard silk is kind of like the best protectant for some reason. Not sure why exactly, but it is. That's what I've been told, so that's what I use. If you don't have that, then like a white shirt, a white handkerchief, or if you don't want to deal with that, just if you have some sort of selenite box of some kind, then you don't even need to cover the top. I only have the bowl on the bottom, nothing to cover the top, so then I just place this over top and it keeps the energy contained. It's not bouncing all over the place. But what I will say is if you have a lot of crystals like these, if you can go out and get a selenite bowl or a selenite plate of some kind, many metaphysical stores sell these. Sometimes they can be a bit pricey, though selenite isn't, the most expensive item. If you need to, you can look online. I'm sure you can find them for cheaper. This one was gifted to me, and I just keep all my crystals in here. I place the white silk handkerchief on top, and I leave it in the corner of my room. If you wanted to go the extra mile, you could think about keeping your crystals in a different room altogether, especially if it's the room that you sleep in, because if you have very chaotic dreams, if you're having nightmares, it could be because the energy in your space isn't calm or cleansed. And I go the extra mile, making sure that things that hold a lot of energy are staying contained. So that is the one thing I will say. If you have a bunch of crystals, don't leave them out if they're not in use, because you're just adding on to the energy of your space. So now I want to talk to you about using water in your space. This is going to be a very simple thing that many people have access to. I personally just use tap water, though if you have access to the ocean, seawater is very powerful. Seawater is great for absorbing negative energy. There's even stories of I think it's from the Bible or something. I read it in this book about protection, that these old kings would have people cast demons and things into the sea to get rid of them. Basically, seawater is great for the cleansing of negative energy. If you have access to that, I highly recommend you use that instead. I supplement that by just using tap water and sea salt, which many people have access to. But even the sea salt is unnecessary because water itself is a great absorber. So something that I do daily is I will fill up this cup of water, I'll add a little bit of salt to it, and I'll hold my hand over it and have the intention that this water is meant to absorb whatever negative energy is in the space that it resides, and I leave it on my windowsill. And it's that simple. That's all I do. And then at the end of that day, I'll dump it out, I'll refill it, do the same thing, and it's just adding another vessel to the room that energy can be absorbed into. Almost like how a dream catcher is supposed to catch negative dreams, this is catching negative energy. This is especially beneficial if you're having very chaotic dreams at night. Placing this by your head on like a, a nightstand while you sleep, this is going to help absorb some of that negative energy. I like to leave this in my space as like an added thing because I do use incense, I do like candles, but just having this vessel somewhere in the room will add on to absorbing that negative energy and keeping it off of me. One thing I will say is if you don't want to just constantly have some cup lying around because it can look like you have a messy space, you can even just disguise it by having a vase of flowers and you're changing out the water daily, because the thing that's doing the work here is the water. Water is the absorber of negative energy. And of course, if you're using it in a flower vase, you wouldn't be adding the salt because that would kill the flowers. But like I said, even just plain water will do the work for you. I like to add on sea salt because salt is a purifier, a cleanser of negative energy. It's also really great for absorbing energy by itself without water. So I like to combine the two just for added effect. And something that I will add to this sea salt is some drops of lavender essential oil, because lavender helps with calming, it helps with nightmares, and I like to keep my space very calm and cleansed. So obviously, that's unnecessary. If you really had to, you could just use water. I go the extra mile because, like I said, I'm a tarot reader. I'm dealing with lots of energy in my space, so I'm doing whatever I can, and this helps a lot. I have some little flies flying around. The flies will go to this, and if there's salt in it, it'll kill the flies, and then I just dump it out. It's like an added bonus, like having a Venus flytrap in the corner of my room. One more thing about the water, you do need to change it out daily, but if you're not dealing with as much energy as I am, like you don't have enemies or you're not practicing a bunch of spell work or energy work, you maybe only need to do this for like a week out of the month. Like for 1 week out of the month, you leave the water in your room, you change it out daily, but you don't need to do it every day for the rest of your life. Even me, there's some times where I want to do it daily, but maybe I'll forget and I just have the water sitting out for 2 days. That's not a bad thing, it's just the vessel itself can only hold so much, so it might get to a point where it's not working to its full potential, but it's not sabotaging your space in any way. So just wanted to leave that there if you are going to employ this method. And another thing that I forgot to mention, which I'll bring the water back out here for this, is this is going to be more extreme. This is for people that really feel like maybe you've moved into a new house and it just has this energy that no matter how much you incense or try to cleanse the space, it still feels stuck. Sometimes I feel like there's been so much energy in my space that cleansing it over the years, it still needs a deep clean. And something I'll say is in your actual cleaning practice, when you're supposed to be cleaning your space, you can add in a cup of seawater or salt water to whatever thing you're using, whatever cleaner that you're using, and you can physically scrub the walls. You don't need to have it dripping down and water staining, but if you have a damp rag, wiping down your walls with the seawater or the salt water, adding it to whatever you use to mop your floor is just an added way of making sure that you're energetically cleansing your space as well as physically cleansing it. Again, this is only really necessary if you deal with a lot of energy like I do, or say you moving into a new space where other people have lived for a long time and you feel like you can't quite cleanse out their energy. Adding this into your monthly cleaning practice or your deep cleaning practice will help a lot with getting rid of that residual energy. All right, this next method is super simple. I'm sure you know about it, so I'm going to go over it quickly, but I'm going to add on a few details in case you don't know about some of these, tactics that I employ. So we're talking about incense now, of course, for cleansing a space. Lots of people do that, but I do want to hit on a few key pointers that I take into account when I'm doing this. So the first one is being the type of incense that you choose. A lot of people might just use incense, smudging, or Palo Santo. I try to stay away from, using bundles of white sage, especially living in the US. That it can be a little bit controversial as it's part of native practices. I don't want to get into that, so I if I want to use sage, I use this Japanese sage incense brand. You can find it in most metaphysical stores. It smells great, and it's just this really small incense stick. If I can show it to you. It's gonna be smaller than your average incense stick. If it'll focus, there we go. I really like it. It's a little brittle, but it smells great. It does the work. It might not be as potent as like a bundle of actual sage, but like I said, it can be kind of controversial. I try not to use white sage if I can help it, but that's my prerogative. I can't stop you from doing whatever it is that you want. The next thing that I will say is these two types of incense are very high vibrational. Dragon's blood, I like to use this brand of Satya incense. You can find this in many metaphysical stores. This is like one of the most popular brands that I've seen, at least where I'm from. And Dragon's blood is a great protectant incense. This is going to be great for cleansing and protecting your space. And I've been told that frankincense, this is a bag of frankincense. If I can open it. This is different from incense sticks. You're going to need charcoal. I don't use this. I bought it because I didn't know what I was getting into. I was used to incense sticks, but it comes like this kind of like wax or rock. You're supposed to burn it on charcoal. I never got around to that, so therefore I don't use it, but I know that frankincense is supposed to be one of the most powerful forms of incense, the most high vibrational incense out there. So if you really need it, if you really need something very powerful to cleanse your space, go out and get this. You're gonna have to look into the specific incense burner that you're gonna need to burn it. It's not super difficult, I just never went out and actually got it. But that is what I have for the types of incense that are best to use. Sage, dragon's blood, frankincense. Any kind of smoke is going to be good. It's still going to do the work, but these are the best that I've seen personally that I believe in are the highest vibrational, strongest protectants, and strongest cleansers. What I'll say about how to cleanse your space, a lot of people will try to get every single inch of their room. I think that it's most important to I just get the corners, I get the chairs and the pillows above my bed. The reason I just get the corners of the room is because that is where energy likes to collect the most. If you ever like vacuum a room, specifically a hardwood room, you will notice that all the dust collects in the corners. It's not really all over the floor. And that's the kind of same way that energy behaves. It collects in corners. And the reason I get chairs and pillows is because that's where I reside the most. You think, where are you residing the most in the room? It's where you sit or it's where you lay down. So try not to obsess over like, oh, I didn't get this 1 inch of my room, therefore that's not cleansed. For upkeep, it's mostly important to just get the corners. And the last thing that I will say, the most important thing if you're cleansing a space with incense is to leave the windows open. If you have your windows closed, if you have your doors closed, the energy has nowhere to go. It's basically like you're just stirring up the energy and it has nowhere to escape from. So always make sure that you have those windows open, make sure you're choosing a high vibrational incense, and don't obsess over getting every single inch. It's just most important to get the corners and the places in which you reside the most. And also, any objects that you might be touching often or using in energy work for some reason. So that is what I have to say about incense. Like I said, just going over it quick because most people know about it already. All right, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is candles. You don't need a candle per se, it's more so about the flame. I'm using this candle just because it smells good, but you don't need a scented candle. The reason that flame is important is because it physically breaks up energy. So this is going to be most important if you're dealing with, say you think somebody is sending you negative energy, you think somebody is trying to hex you for some reason, or you feel like you're being psychically attacked, that is when this is going to be best employed. Whereas water is good for absorbing excess negative energy, the incense is great for cleansing a space, this is going to break up the energy from psychic attacks. It's also going to break up strong energy that might be directed with a purpose. Because the way it works is like, imagine like energy as like a thread trying to attach to you. This is going to be the scissors that breaks up that thread. So it's more the act of having the flame around. If you have a fireplace in your home or your room, that's going to be really important. I don't, so I just have a candle. And if you're on a budget, just having a tea light of some sort, like those little $1 things you can get in packages at like the grocery store that people use to keep like catered food warm. That's going to be super cheap, super low maintenance. You just leave it burning near an open window. I like to just keep this going, especially when I'm doing readings, because I never know what might be interfering. But like if you have enemies for some reason, or somebody directing evil eye at you, somebody directing negative energy at you, it might be good to keep this burning in your space, especially if it's the bedroom where you go down to sleep at night. Also, especially if you're having very negative or chaotic dreams that you might be believed to be interference from an entity or another person. Though, of course, I never recommend leaving it burning all night or leaving burning unattended, only when you're around, maybe before bed, but don't forget to blow it out, keep it in safe spaces, of course. So that is what I'll say about flame. Super simple and easy. You can do it with any kind of candle. It's more so the act of having a flame, and I like to do it by an open window, like I said. So now we're talking about cleansing yourself. A lot of these cleansing practices are going to employ sort of the same things. So like I said previously with the water, leaving it near you is also going to help cleanse your space, but it's also going to help cleanse yourself, keep negative energy away from you. But like I said, how cleaning a room is important to keeping it energetically cleansed, cleaning yourself is equally important. Some of the things that I'll do is when I'm taking a shower, I like to imagine that the water is washing away all of the negative energy. Just like you probably feel good after a shower, it's not just because you're physically clean, it's because you got energetically cleansed. And water is one of the best ways to do that. Fully immersing yourself in a bath or showering is going to help a lot. And like I said, if you have access to the ocean, doing like an annual or a monthly swim in the ocean is a great way to cleanse yourself, a very powerful way of cleansing yourself energetically. Another thing that I like to do is just upkeep on personal hygiene. And for some reason, I feel like when I brush my hair, when I'm getting those knots out, I'm getting rid of energy that might cling to me. When I'm imagining something tight like a braid or something like a knot, it's holding that energy in. And when I brush it out, I'm brushing it away from me. So I like to kind of incorporate things like that into my routine, especially when keeping myself clean. If I'm washing my face at the end of a long day, I'm washing off, the energy people might have casted at me while looking at me, for instance. So that is one of the most important ways of keeping yourself clean energetically. Water is going to be number one because, of course, a lot of us do that very frequently, daily, or like me, I have dry skin, so I do it about once every other day. Incense is going to be great for you as well. I like to go 3 times clockwise around the crown of my head. I like to go down my body, make sure I'm getting every inch. Like I said with a room, how you only want to get the corners, sometimes I'll just go around my head 3 times and that's good enough, but other times I do like to get every inch of myself. Do what resonates with you, do what you feel like is best cleansing you. With flame, we're not going to be burning ourselves, but what I will say is the sun. It's a ball of fire. Go outside and stand in the sun. Sun and UV rays actually are great for physically cleansing. I know some people who just leave their clothes out if they buy them from a thrift store because UV rays can kill certain bacterias, but I like to think of the sun as a way of just burning off any energy that might be stuck to me. Of course, wear sunscreen, protect yourself, but just being outside in general is a great way to keep yourself cleansed. And using the earth itself, you can just walk barefoot on grass, barefoot on actual dirt, and that is a great way of draining the energy out of you. Imagine the earth pulling it out of you. So these are a lot of very simple ways that you can just incorporate into your day-to-day life. And it doesn't even need to be something that you go outside and interrupt your daily routine to go do. Just when you're walking around outside, just kind of set that intention, focus for a moment on how the sun is hitting you, how the air is blowing away energy that might be on you. When you're showering, just taking a moment to set the intention that the water is washing away the energy. It's just a great way to be in tune to the little things that we do to keep ourselves energetically cleansed. So that's what I'll say about those methods. Now there is one specific method that I want to talk to you about. I'm going to be reading from my phone for this because there's a lot more steps to this, but like I said, how I don't have an egg with me. I wanted to talk about an egg, so I'll just hold up a rock, one of my crystals, as an example. So something I'm going to talk to you about is an egg cleanse. And an egg cleanse is a very, very powerful way of keeping yourself clean of specifically evil eye, hexes, and curses. This can be done monthly or weekly if you really want to, but it's going to be best at removing energy, negative energy that is specifically directed at you. So if you feel like you were just looking for ways to keep your space clean or yourself clean, I've already gone over all of that. But now we're getting into like what is intentionally directed at you. Specifically, evil eye. If you don't know what evil eye is, that is when, like, if you have an enemy of some kind trying to bring you down, or somebody that is envious of you, it's when people are casting that negative energy at you. This will remove that from you, because people that do that are trying to bring you down energetically. They don't like that you have more than them. And if you feel like you've encountered somebody that's very fake, or somebody that wants what's bad for you, you might want to do an egg cleanse. And the good thing about an egg cleanse is you can actually read it. Like, you can physically read it like tarot cards to see who is sending the energy to you, what kind of energy is it? Is it a hex? Is it a curse? Is it evil eye? I'm not going to get in depth into that in this video. I'll leave instructions on how to read your egg down below, but now I'm going to get into exactly how to do an egg cleanse. Alright, so starting off, how to do an egg cleanse. What you're going to need is a raw egg, uncooked obviously, still in the shell. You're going to need a clear glass. So like if you were looking at this glass, it's hard for me to turn it on its side because it's full, but you can see that there's lines in it. You don't want that. You want something clear. You don't have to have a clear glass if you don't intend on reading your egg, but if you want to know where the energy is coming from, you need a clear vessel so you can clearly see what's going on with your egg once you've cracked it into it. So clear glass, water, of course, sea salt, access to a toilet, and optional if you want to send the energy back to the sender. Like if somebody's sending you evil eye, you want to send that energy back, you can include red pepper flake, hot sauce, and or lemon juice. That part is optional. You can just cleanse the energy and throw it away in the toilet, or you can choose to send it back. If I feel like I'm dealing with a specific person that is actively wishing harm on me, I will send the energy back. But sometimes evil eye, it can be done even by friends who love us but just are very insecure, dealing with envy or jealousy, and don't necessarily mean to be sending it back to us. So you have to ask yourself, do you really want to send this energy back to this person, or do you just want to cleanse yourself? I'll leave that up to you. No harm, no foul, no judgment here. I've done both. So now that you have everything with you, you want to start by cleaning the egg, of course, because it did come out of a chicken's butt. So I like to just clean it with soap and water and dry it off. Then you're going to rub it over your skin. I'm going to use this crystal as an example. I'll start on my hands, I'll get over my palms, I go up my arms, I will go specifically like around my head, my face, my nose. If you know where the chakras are in your body, I like to specifically go over those, over my chest, my sternum, my stomach, down to my hips, all the way over my legs, my feet. Unlike what I was saying with the incense, where you don't necessarily need to get every inch, when you're doing an egg cleanse, it is best to get everywhere that you can touch. Just because you're not going to be doing it every day. This is a once in a while thing. You want to make sure you're getting as much of that energy out as possible. And the reason that egg cleanses work is because negative energy likes to attack what is vulnerable. At the moment, it's attacking you. But in egg, there's nothing more vulnerable than a baby or an embryo. So allowing that to be on your skin, you're pulling the negative energy out into the egg, and it's being trapped inside the egg. It's choosing to attack the egg instead. So after rubbing it over your skin, make sure you've gotten everywhere that you can. What you're going to do is you're going to crack the egg into the glass of water. So for instance, if I had this glass of water here, I'm going to crack the egg into the water, but a very, very, very important note to make is you do not want to look down at the glass. You're going to look from the side. Once you've cracked the egg, you're opening back up that negative energy. It's going into the cup, and it can come out of the top. So you don't want to be looking directly at it because it will come back to you. You want to look from the side. Something I like to do as an extra precaution is I'll take like a paper towel and I'll put it over the top just as like an added bonus of like, I'm definitely not going to look at the top. I'm not going to accidentally forget. Not everybody believes in this, so you don't necessarily need to believe it yourself. This is something that I was taught when I was learning how to do an egg cleanse. I just do my best not to look at it as much as possible, but if you want to read it looking at the side, of course, do not look from the top down. So, like I said before, I'm not going to go over exactly how to read the egg. I'll tell you what I usually do is I look from the side. Basically how it works is you are the yolk, and there's going to be streaks and bubbles inside, and you examine like what's attached to you, what's not attached to you, what means what. Like I said, I'm leaving the descriptions down in the description box below because I don't want to take too much of your time, but this is the step when you would be reading the egg. So now moving on from that step, after you've read your egg, you found out who the sender is or what was going on or how many people around you are sending you negative energy, you are going to now cleanse it. So I will start by taking a lot of salt. This can be iodized salt, sea salt, whatever you want. I usually tend to do sea salt, and you're just gonna dump all that in there. Like, not enough to like fill the glass, of course, but you want to coat the egg. You want to obviously see things being stirred up. You don't want to leave any surface of the egg untouched, but like I said, you're not drowning it. Basically, do what feels right to you. So I will usually stop there, but like I said, if you want to send the energy back to sender, if you have your red pepper flakes or your hot sauce, basically anything that will burn, so like lemon juice, you could do that. That's when you will add that on top of the salt. Remember not to be looking directly down at the egg. And then finally, after you're all done with that, you're going to carefully carry your glass over to a toilet and dump it in. Make sure you're not looking down at the toilet, flush it away, and then clean your glass, maybe even use incense around it, cleanse yourself, and you're done. If you've been dealing with a lot of evil eye, lots of negative energy from other people, lots of negative influences, this is going to make you feel a lot lighter. Sometimes if you deal with a lot of evil eye, so like envious people around you or hateful fake people around you, it can make you physically ill. You might start seeing like acne breakouts on your face. You might start seeing like things that you wanted being sabotaged by other people. Another precaution I can say is if you feel like you're dealing with evil eye from people, don't tell them about the good things going on in your life. Don't tell them about like the promotion you're getting or how you have a 4.0. These people might hear that and wish on your downfall, and those things might start being sabotaged. So if you feel like that kind of thing has been happening to you, an egg cleanse is a great way to protect from that. I highly recommend doing it about once a month, even if you're not dealing with a lot of negative energy, because it's very simple. It takes like 5 minutes, and it's the most powerful way I know of to keep yourself energetically cleansed. And like I said, that is going to be the most like spell work type thing that I've talked about in this video. Everything else is just something that you could do daily. Leave it in your room, do it really quick, takes 30 seconds. An egg cleanse, like I said, is something that you do once in a while, or if you specifically feel like you're dealing with an energetic attack. So that is what I have for you here today, friends. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, that you can take some pointers from this. These are what works for me. I do this daily. Right before I started this video, I was burning a candle, I refreshed this water, I incensed myself. So these are all things that I personally do that have benefited me. But like I said, if it doesn't resonate with you, you don't need to do it. I just wanted to put out these ideas in case they find someone who has been looking for this kind of thing to incorporate into their day-to-day routine. So, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, I usually do tarot videos, so if you're into tarot pick-a-cards, feel free to check out my channel. I do in the future plan on talking more about certain rituals like these that I do in my day-to-day life, cleansing, protecting, or other things about how I got into this journey. So if you're into those things, feel free to subscribe and stick around. But yeah, that's everything that I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.